Hey guys, welcome to Hydrodynamica, and today I'm going to be discussing passing the private pilot written exam. So I took this probably like last week, something like that, and I got a 90, so that's an alright grade, I guess. I'm hoping for better, but yeah, it's still a pass, it's still an A, so I'm still pretty happy about that. So why it's important though is to get a good grade, obviously. If you're a pilot who's making A on their exams rather than C's on their exams, just scraping by, then generally knowledgeably you're a better pilot, and so that's obviously something you want to be. Second of all, and what I've heard a lot from the older guys in the program, not necessarily older, but more experienced, is that the designated pilot examiner, the one who's going to do your check ride, so for me it's a woman, well she or he, so they're going to look at your grade, and your oral exam is going to be longer or shorter depending on how you did. So if you're scraping in there with like a 73 versus someone who scored like a 95, the person with 73 is going to have a much harder oral exam than the person who's got a 95, because DP incorrectly or correctly are going to assume that you're going to know a bit more if you get a higher grade, which generally is the case. Now that being said, the most important thing is to study. So anybody who's wanting to become a pilot or is currently doing it knows that there's a lot to do. So I've studied quite a bit. So yeah, obviously we got a textbook. That's pretty hefty. That's like 1,000 pages. I actually got my new instrument book, and that's like another 1,500 pages. In addition to that, you've got your POH, your flight operations manual, that kind of thing. And there's just so much information to cover. It can be quite daunting. And then obviously you got your regulations book, and that's another like 2,000 pages of small print. So you don't need to know all of the regulations, but there's quite a few you need to know eventually. So like I said, the information is pretty much overwhelming at first. I have to say I've learned a hell of a lot in this first semester. But the only way you can really do it is by knuckling down and studying quite a bit for however long it takes. I've got a routine set up, and whenever I have a spare moment, I'm generally studying. That's what I've done for the past semester. Is I know material before I get into class, and then my instructor just answers any questions I have because I read it over, I highlight, and I make notes on my computer before the class. Because for that reason I got done with the textbook like a month earlier than everybody else, but I still went to class so I could get more knowledge in and to reinforce it. So that's the most important point. Another thing which is very helpful is using test prep, any test prep software. So mine's Prepware, but I've heard a lot of good things about Shepherd Air, like people saying that it gives you not only like test questions, but also like a strategy guide. Like, for example, if they word a certain way, if you don't know, it's most likely to be answer choice B or something like that. So I'm definitely going to try and buy that in addition to the Prepware that I have to get for next semester. So definitely consider using that, because also what it'll do is it'll show the areas that you're weaker on. So like it'll have performance charts. So for me, that was mainly questions regarding regulations and magnetic dip. I had quite a little bit of trouble on, so it just highlights areas which you're strong at, which you don't need to study as much, versus areas which you might need to touch up on. And then after that, you got acronyms. So like I said, with the amount of stuff and the memorization, so like for example, section 91.205, which is VFR equipment like requirements, FLA atom squared, and the ELT, that's something that's going to make it easier for you to remember if you start putting them in acronyms to make it easy for your brain to process the information. And then you got voice recording. So this has helped me mainly. For example, my girlfriend lives 3 hours away. So whenever I'm driving up to see her on the weekend and back down, I'm generally voice recording things that I've learned about in class, especially like acronyms, things I need to know. And so that time really isn't that wasted, in a sense. It's never wasted because I'm going to see her, but it means I'm just using it more to the fullest extent because I'm also studying. as well while I'm driving up there. So, you know, if you got a spare moment, if you got like a long commute or anything, I would suggest that as well, and it might work for you. But really, just use anything that works for you. Then you got Flight Sim, so you've seen it. I've got a lot of equipment for it. Got the rudder pedals as well, and it's generally a good practice for the flying bit. It is a little bit different because it doesn't feel the same, but you can reinforce some of the concepts which are a little bit harder to understand, like VOR tracking and communication, that kind of thing, just by plugging and playing in the flight sim, as long as you do it kind of realistically so you don't develop any bad habits. But I think it's a good tool. Obviously, it's a hell of a lot cheaper than actually going flying. So, wish I had more time to do it though. But it's a good tool. I suggest getting a flight sim like the FSX or Prepared 4.0 or X-Plane. You know, the choice is yours. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Then you got, obviously, finally I'm going to close it. Obviously, you never stop learning. Being a pilot, it's very much continual education that'll continue to be throughout your career, from what I've heard. Obviously, the more you know, the more confident you'll be, the more proficient you'll be. And the thing is about private pilot, it's just the fundamentals. Well, these are the building blocks. It's only going to get tougher and more in depth. So if you don't know these ones well enough, then you're really setting yourself up for trouble later on. So that's why I've studied pretty hard this semester and pretty happy with my grades. So hopefully I can keep it up. And if you can do all those things, you'll do pretty well on your written. But obviously, study hard, guys. So, thanks for watching.